Hi, folks. My name is Dwaine Rieves, and I'm delighted today to share a few thoughts about Red Camaro, which is a book of poetry published by the Cornerstone Press, a unique student run publishing project at the University of Wisconsin in Stevens Point. I first want to thank the fabulous team at the Boulder Bookstore for providing this opportunity to talk with you. And I also want to put in a big plug for the Boulder Bookstore because of its serendipitous literary connection to one of the poems in the book, a poem entitled Pearl Street Gardenia. And Pearl Street just happens to be the location of the bookstore, 1107 Pearl Street to be exact. So when you're in the Denver, Boulder area, head on over to Pearl Street for the best in book discovery adventures. This book, Red Camaro, is a collection of poems that cultivates my experiences in growing up in Mississippi, cultivates these times to help us travel better through our own present times. That's to say, Red Camaro is intended to start a metaphorical trip that hopefully helps us understand and navigate our lives and times. Now, let's get to the questions the Boulder team kindly provided for me. The first one is, can you give us a synopsis of your poetry collection? And of course, I have two answers. The overarching one being the word love. The poems in this book consist of working love poems, poems that deal with many of the grand and tough sensations we must experience in the work of life and loving. And it's these sensations, these experiences that provide us with the stuff that goes into the deep treads, as you can see on the cover of the book, the deep treads of the tires of our Red Camaro lives, the tough stuff that provides traction. On a more tangible level, the poems in this book explore the dimensions of four topics: sex, sin, jubilation, and Jesus. That's it. I'll say it again. Sex, sin, jubilation, and Jesus. And hopefully all four are at home in the bucket seats of this red Camaro. The team asks, what inspires my poetry? In general, I view almost all poetry as an expression of faith, of an attempt to speak back to the challenges of this world. So, in brief, I think it's largely the challenges of life that trigger a desire within me to scratch out a few words that I later manipulate until the end product might be called poetry. Fingers crossed. Here's the question the team asks. Why did you entitle the book Red Camaro? The cover looks like an advertisement for Goodyear tires. I love it. The title is taken from one of the love poems in the book, a poem in which the red Camaro serves as a kind of totem for love, a symbol of the great joys as well as the dangers of love. And now, a logistical question. Can you tell us about your writing process? In general, I view the crafting of a poem as a kind of sandbox in which I play with words, tinker with their arrangement and relevance, their potential as well as their pointlessness. And I can really only do this when I've found some free time from my day job. I'm an internist, so often my days are consumed with medical matters, but still the vacant spaces do appear from time to time, as they do for all of us. Some people knit, some people whittle. I tend to tinker with poetry. Next question is, what are a couple of books you're reading now or recently that you really loved? I like that word, asking me about love. Love is an emotion that comes with a range of amplitudes. And to me, the higher amplitudes are accompanied when it comes to books with my need to Make notes in those books, in the pages of the books. I like the hard stuff, the books you can underline, star, circle, and maybe speak back to, annotate the words on the page. One book that recently launched my annotation tendency is a collection of poems by the British poet Denise Riley. It has two titles: Say Something Back, Time Lived Without Its Flow. Intriguing poems that examine the dynamic nature of love in the face of our inevitable death. The second book is entitled Papyrus, has a subtitle, The Invention of Books in the Ancient World by Irene Vallejo. It's a grand exploration of the development of books in Western civilization. And the Boulder team asked, any last thoughts? Yes. I'm hoping you can speak back to my poems. I'm hoping you can go to my website. Just Google DwaineRieves.com and you'll see an envelope there. So pop me an email. Let me know what you think about these poems. Some are maybe a little lewd. Some are pushing the envelope. Some may not even be poetry. Some you probably can't figure out what's going on. I want to hear what you think. I want you to argue with me. I'd love to be engaged in discussions, to explore, to understand myself as well as others. Now, let's get to a poem. The first poem deals with a tractor, the dangerous part of a tractor. It's a little poem called Power Takeoff. Now, if you grew up on a farm like I did, you know what power takeoff refers to. We call it the PTO. The PTO is the drive shaft on the back of the tractor, the rotating part that you hook your bush hog up to, your hay baler. It's the turning part that you better be careful with, because if your t-shirt gets caught in it, it's going to strangle you. It's going to flip you under, and it's not an uncommon cause of major problems in the world of farming. Here's the poem, Power Takeoff. Tough world, this world, tough as farmers and tractors with treacherous parts that turn, because it takes power in what you hook up to a bush hog to set the blades to turning one for one, with energy transmitted via the semi-phallic part that takes your hands to hitch up, to manipulate until a spring-loaded pin clicks into a place. I often thought I loved my mother more than my father, thought love tougher than a world I might work out in, if working might click me into that place where metal meets metal, in making me think love might be farmed like a worry of one or another. My father, a fine but tough teacher, tougher than this tough world is, graspable by design, dangerous if you forget. Danger powers the connection. We're going to dive into sex with the next poem. Not the sexual act, but the genitalia. I am an uncircumcised guy. An uncircumcised guy who grew up among a bunch of circumcised boys, which can present a dilemma if you don't understand why you're different from those other kids, and how, despite all you can do to be like the other kids, because of the way you were made, you will always be a little different. The poem concerns the magical power within that sometimes troubling difference. The poem's called Tarzan. 1. Daylight revealed our bodies, our troop showering wild among trees and improvised plumbing. No scout laughed or pointed, But my future felt flawed from the beginning, my penis shrouded like a loser in stark naked comparison, weird in its standout, wrinkled in a hoodie fear, clingy as grapevines, our troop leader cut with a machete. We redress before grabbing the vines, worshipped in covenant of high leaf muscadine and Tarzan imitation, every scout aligned for takeoff and ape man survival. 2. Legend says Mary preserved the holy prepuce in oil, the concoction making its way years later to another Mary, the sinful one, who had no idea why the oil smelled special, just that it did. So when a famous Jew came to visit, this second Mary anointed the master in a tincture of his own genitalia. 3. The other scouts push so every guy might swing higher. Tarzan roars as soldiers make him surrender. Mary falls to her knees before the anointing. I smell all the skin. I remember not wanting the odor of cut vines and sap purling daylight raw within the liquid. Thanks for spending this moment with me. And again, if you're in the Boulder, Denver area, the bookstore there on Pearl Street Mall is the go-to place for grand books as well as grand beginnings. Perhaps in a hot red Camaro. Thank you.